What you are about to discover about Jim Carrey goes far beyond the laughter he brought us on screen. This is the story of a man who faced extreme poverty, lived in a van with his family, worked as a janitor at 15 to help support his parents, and witnessed the slow mental deterioration of his mother. But what really happened behind the scenes in the life of this comedy icon? How did a boy who slept in a parking lot manage to conquer Hollywood? And what was the emotional price he paid for all that success? Leave your opinion in the comments. Do you believe that suffering can be the fuel for genius? Newmarket, Ontario. A small Canadian town in the 1960s and 70s? Cold winters, modest homes, working-class families trying to make ends meet? This was where James Eugene Carrey was born on January 17, 1962. The Carrey household was filled with love, but also with struggle. Percy Carrey, Jim's father, was a talented musician and accountant who dreamed of making it big, but dreams don't pay the bills. Kathleen Carrey, Jim's mother, was a homemaker who battled something invisible, something that slowly consumed her from the inside: severe depression and chronic pain. Jim was the youngest of 4 children. He watched his older siblings navigate the tension that hung in the air like a fog. His mother would spend days in bed, unable to move, unable to smile. The curtains drawn, the house silent except for the occasional sound of his father trying to keep everything together. Percy worked hard, but the music industry is unforgiving. When the gigs dried up, he took an accounting job. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept food on the table. For a while. Then came the blow that would change everything. Percy lost his job. The family's financial situation, already fragile, collapsed. They were forced to move from Newmarket to Scarborough, a suburb of Toronto, searching for better opportunities. But opportunities were scarce. The bills piled up. The stress intensified. And Kathleen's depression deepened. Jim was just a boy, but he understood more than a child should. He saw the despair in his father's eyes. He heard his mother crying in the darkness. And he discovered something powerful. He could make her laugh. When he contorted his face into ridiculous expressions, when he imitated voices, when he created characters out of thin air, he could see a flicker of light return to her eyes. For a moment, the pain would lift. For a moment, she was present. This became his mission. The young Jim Carrey, barely 10 years old, became the family's emotional caretaker. He performed for his mother like his life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. If he could make her laugh, maybe she would be okay. Maybe they would all be okay. But things got worse. Much worse. The family lost their home. They packed their belongings into a yellow Volkswagen van and moved into it. The van became their shelter, parked in the lot of the Titan Wheels factory where Percy had finally found work as a security guard. Imagine this, a family of 6, living in a cramped van in the bitter Canadian cold. No privacy. No stability. No stability. At 15, Jim made a decision. He dropped out of high school and took a job as a janitor at the same factory where his father worked. 8 hours a night, cleaning toilets, scrubbing floors, emptying trash, his hands raw, his body exhausted. But his mind? His mind was somewhere else, on stage, under the lights, making thousands of people laugh the way he made his mother laugh. Every night after his shift, he would go home to that van, crawl into his makeshift bed, and dream. He dreamed of comedy clubs. He dreamed of applause. He dreamed of a life where his family would never have to struggle again. Those dreams were all he had. And he held on to them with everything he had. The relationship between Jim Carrey and his mother Kathleen was complicated. It was beautiful and devastating at the same time. Depression is a thief. It steals joy, energy, hope. And Kathleen's depression was relentless. There were days when she couldn't get out of bed. Days when she couldn't speak. Days when the weight of existence was simply too much. Jim watched this happen over and over. As a child, he didn't understand clinical depression. He just knew that his mother was sad and he needed to fix it. So he became a performer. Not because he wanted fame or recognition, but because he needed to save her. Every joke, every impression, every silly face was a lifeline thrown into dark water, hoping she would grab onto it. And sometimes she did. Sometimes she would laugh. A real, genuine laugh that echoed through their small space and made everything feel lighter. Those moments were everything to Jim. They validated his existence. They gave him purpose. But they also created a pattern that would follow him for the rest of his life. The belief that his worth was tied to his ability to make others happy. This is a heavy burden for a child to carry. While other kids were playing hockey or going to school dances, Jim was honing his craft out of necessity. He studied every comedian he could find on television. He practiced voices and characters until they were perfect. He performed for anyone who would watch. At family gatherings, he was the entertainment. At school, before he dropped out, he was the class clown. It wasn't just fun for him, it was survival. When Jim was 16, he convinced his father to drive him to a comedy club in Toronto called Yuck Yucks. It was amateur night. Jim walked onto that stage wearing a yellow suit his mother had made for him, his hair slicked back, his heart pounding, and he bombed. Terribly. The audience didn't laugh. Some people even booed. He walked off that stage humiliated, crushed. But Percy Carey looked at his son and said something that changed everything. He said, "You have something special. Don't give up." So Jim didn't. He went back. Again and again, he refined his act. He learned timing, delivery, presence, and slowly the laughter came. Real laughter. The kind that filled rooms and made strangers pay attention. By his late teens, Jim was a regular at Toronto comedy clubs. He was raw, energetic, fearless. He did impressions of celebrities with uncanny accuracy. He created characters that were bizarre and hilarious, and people started to notice. But Toronto wasn't enough. If he was going to make it, he needed to go to Los Angeles, the place where dreams either came true or died. In 1979, at just 21 years old, Jim packed his things and moved to Los Angeles. He had almost nothing. A few $100s. Suitcase. And that same burning determination that had kept him going through years of poverty and pain. He performed at the Comedy Store, the legendary club on Sunset Boulevard. He faced rejection after rejection from casting directors who didn't understand his manic energy. He struggled to pay rent. He wondered if he'd made a terrible mistake. But he kept going. Because quitting wasn't an option. Quitting would mean going back to that van. Quitting would mean letting his mother down. Quitting would mean all that suffering had been for nothing. So he pushed forward night after night, audition after audition, until finally, someone saw what Percy Carey had seen years earlier, something special. Before we continue, we want to hear from you. What do you think about what you've seen so far? Does Jim Carrey's early life surprise you? How do you think his childhood shaped the person he became? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters. The 1990s belonged to Jim Carrey. It started with a sketch comedy show called In Living Color, where his rubber-faced antics and fearless commitment to bizarre characters made him a standout. Then came 1994, the year everything exploded. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber. 3 massive comedy hits in one year. This doesn't happen. Actors spend decades trying to get one hit film. Jim got 3 in 12 months. He became the biggest comedy star on the planet almost overnight. His physical comedy was unlike anything audiences had seen. His energy was infectious. His characters were unforgettable. Hollywood threw money at him. By the late 90s, he was earning $20 million per film, making him one of the highest paid actors in the world. The boy who cleaned toilets for minimum wage was now a multimillionaire. The family that lived in a van now had financial security. Jim had achieved the impossible. But success is complicated. Fame is intoxicating and isolating at the same time. Jim's personal life became tabloid fodder. His marriage to Melissa Wimmer, his first wife and mother of his daughter Jane, fell apart under the pressure of his skyrocketing career. They divorced in 1995. Then came a highly publicized relationship with his Dumb and Dumber co-star Lauren Holly. They married in 1996. It lasted less than a year. Jim was searching for something. Connection, meaning, peace. But he couldn't find it. The characters he played on screen were exaggerated and silly, but they were also shields. Behind the laughter, behind the manic performances, there was a man struggling with the same darkness that had consumed his mother. Depression, anxiety, a deep knowing sense that none of this was real. He dated Renee Zellweger after they met on the set of Me, Myself, and Irene. Their relationship was intense and passionate. For a while, it seemed like he had found happiness, but it ended in heartbreak. Again. The pattern was clear. Jim Carrey could make millions of people laugh, but he couldn't seem to hold on to love. He started questioning everything. What was the point of all this success if he felt empty inside? Why did he still feel like that scared kid trying to make his mother smile? He turned to spirituality, philosophy, self-reflection. He read Eckhart Tolle and dove into Eastern philosophy. He painted. He wrote. He tried to understand the human condition and his place in it. His film choices became more varied. He took on dramatic roles in The Truman Show and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, proving he was more than just a comedian. Critics praised him. Awards followed. But the internal struggle continued. The question haunted him. Was Jim Carrey the person, or just another character he was performing? We want to take a moment to thank you for staying with us this far. Your time and attention mean everything.
And trust us, the most intense and revealing parts of Jim Carrey's story are still ahead. The best is yet to come. 2012. Jim Carrey met a woman named Catriona White at a party. She was 30 years old, a makeup artist from Ireland with a warm smile and a gentle spirit. They began dating. For Jim, who had been through so many failed relationships, Catriona seemed different, genuine, kind. Someone who saw him, not the celebrity. But their relationship was turbulent. They broke up and reconciled multiple times over the next few years. Both struggled with inner demons. Catriona had battled depression and emotional trauma from her past. Jim, despite all his success and spiritual seeking, was still wrestling with his own darkness. They understood each other's pain, but understanding isn't always enough to heal. In September 2015, Jim and Catriona broke up again. This time felt final. Days later, on September 28th, Catriona White took her own life. She was found in her home, having died from a prescription drug overdose. She left behind a suicide note that mentioned Jim. The news devastated him. The guilt was crushing. Questions swirled. Could he have done something? Should he have seen the signs? Was he somehow responsible? These are the questions that haunt anyone who loses someone to suicide. But for Jim, it became much more complicated. In 2016, Catriona's mother and estranged husband filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Jim Carrey. The allegations were shocking and deeply disturbing. They claimed that Jim had given Catriona multiple STDs without disclosing his condition. They alleged that he had used a false name, Arthur King, to obtain prescription drugs illegally and then provided those drugs to Catriona, which she used to end her life. The lawsuit painted Jim as manipulative and callous, someone who had contributed to her death. Text messages between Jim and Catriona were released during the legal proceedings. They were intimate, painful, complicated. In some, she expressed love and affection. In others, there was clear distress about her health and their relationship. The media seized on every detail. Headlines screamed accusations. Jim's reputation, built over decades, was suddenly in question. Jim fought back. His legal team denied all allegations. They argued that Catriona's family was seeking money and exploiting her death. They presented evidence that she had written and deleted multiple versions of her suicide note, suggesting premeditation. They argued that Jim had tried to help her, that he cared for her deeply, but that he couldn't be held responsible for her decision to take her own life. The case dragged on for 2 years. Every new filing brought fresh pain. Every court appearance put Jim under scrutiny. The man who had spent his life trying to make people smile was now associated with tragedy and controversy. In January 2018, the lawsuit was dismissed. The judge ruled that the plaintiffs had not provided sufficient evidence to support their claims. Later that year, the case was officially dropped. But the damage was done. Jim Carrey would never be the same. He became more reclusive, more selective about public appearances. The loss of Catriona and the brutal legal battle that followed had stripped away another layer of the person he thought he was. How do you move forward after something like that? How do you find peace when your name has been dragged through such darkness? The years since Catriona's death have been a period of transformation for Jim Carrey. He has stepped back from Hollywood in significant ways. In 2022, he announced that he was considering retirement, stating that he had done enough and wanted to focus on other aspects of his life. While he has returned for select projects, like Sonic the Hedgehog films, his appearances are rare and calculated. Jim has found solace in art. His paintings are large, colorful, expressive works that reflect his inner world. He has held art exhibitions and sold pieces for substantial sums. But the art isn't about money. It's about processing, about externalizing the chaos inside his mind and giving it form. He paints for hours, losing himself in color and movement, finding a meditative state that brings him closer to peace than fame ever did. He has also become more vocal about mental health. In interviews, he has spoken candidly about his struggles with depression, about the illusion of success, about the emptiness that can exist even at the top. He has criticized the pharmaceutical industry and talked about finding healing through spirituality rather than medication. His views are controversial, but they come from lived experience. From a man who has seen both the heights of achievement and the depths of despair. His relationship with his daughter Jane Carrey has been a source of joy. Jane is a musician and mother herself, and Jim is a proud grandfather. He speaks about fatherhood and being a grandfather with genuine warmth. These roles ground him in ways that fame never could. They remind him of what truly matters: connection, love, legacy. Jim has also spent time in his retreat in Canada, reconnecting with the country of his birth. He bought property in Ontario, not far from where he grew up in poverty. It's a full circle moment. The man who left Canada as a struggling comedian has returned as one of the most successful entertainers in history, but also as someone seeking simplicity and authenticity. In interviews, Jim speaks differently now. There's a weight to his words, a depth that wasn't there in his younger years. He talks about ego and identity, about the masks we wear and the roles we play. He has said that Jim Carrey is just another character he created, and that beneath that character is something formless and infinite. It's philosophical, it's spiritual, and for those who have followed his journey, it makes sense. The boy who performed to save his mother discovered that performance was both his gift and his prison. So what is Jim Carrey's legacy? It's complicated. He's one of the greatest comedians of all time, someone who redefined physical comedy and created iconic characters that will live forever. He is also a man marked by tragedy, controversy, and profound inner struggle. He is proof that success does not equal happiness, that wealth does not erase trauma, that making millions of people laugh does not guarantee your own joy. But perhaps his greatest legacy is his honesty.
In an industry built on illusion, Jim Carrey has pulled back the curtain and shown us the person behind the persona. He has talked about depression when it wasn't popular to do so. He has admitted mistakes and acknowledged pain. He has shown us that even icons are human. The boy who slept in a yellow van in a Canadian parking lot became a global superstar. But more importantly, he became a survivor. Someone who faced poverty, family trauma, heartbreak, public scandal, and still found ways to keep going, to keep creating, to keep searching for meaning. Is he at peace now? Maybe. Maybe peace isn't a destination, but a practice. Something you work toward every day. Jim Carrey is still working, still painting, still reflecting, still, in his own way, trying to make sense of a life that has been extraordinary and painful in equal measure. The story of Jim Carrey teaches us that behind every smile there can be invisible pain, and that success never completely erases the marks of the past. Now we want to hear from you. Which part of Jim Carrey's life impacted you the most? Do you believe he has found the peace he always sought? Leave your opinion in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next stories. And be sure to watch the next recommended video, where we reveal even more surprising secrets about other iconic personalities.